City of Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded Tuesday, July 2, 2019.
All right, I will call to order the July 2nd, 2019 meeting of the Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission. And Leanne, would you be kind enough to please call the roll?
Carlson?
Yes.
Kirschling?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Ostrowski?
Here.
And Westcott.
Here. Just a couple of quick things. Today is July 2nd, for those of you who will eventually be watching this on videotape. It is the historian in me that cannot resist wishing you all actually a happy Independence Day. If you remember your history, it was on July 2nd of 1776 that the Resolution of Independence was passed by the Continental Congress. At the time, Delegate John Adams declared July 2nd would live on forever as a day of celebration and remembrance. It was actually, the document itself was dated July 4th. Can anybody tell me when it was actually signed?
July 10th?
August 2nd was
no,
when the
later.
declaration was actually signed. So, it's July 2nd. Happy
And what
Independence
city was it signed in?
Day. You tell me.
Philadelphia.
I'm proud of you. That's 2 for 2 today,
Yeah,
Commissioner.
I'm not gonna
All right, now a couple of other items. I think both the police chief and fire chief, I copied you on an email I sent to Leanne concerning, I'd like us as a commission start hosting or showcasing specific areas that I will leave up to your discretion with your management teams, the leadership corps, fire, EMS, police, if you wish to work with your liaison. I would like to begin in the month of August adding 1 or 2 items to the agenda where we can showcase and highlight to the community the work that you folks do is so special, so unique, and is so important to this community. And I don't want ever us to start taking it for granted. We've had wonderful presentations from from Christy Ahrens in mental health. I remember a presentation with I'm sorry, Bob, I don't remember the automatic CPR. Please forgive me, Joseph, with the Lucas device. We had a wonderful presentation on that. We had a very informative presentation on the use of body cameras and how they were being introduced. I believe from working with you 2 professionals and your teams over the years, there is a fountain of really good stories that we could be sharing at this commission meeting for the public. Now, we don't need half-hour presentations. 5-10 minutes is more than enough. But work with your management teams and then work with me and Leanne for the August through the rest of the year to say what we can showcase in police, what can we showcase in fire and EMS. And we'll go from there. Yes, Chief?
After we received the email, Chief Skiba and I talked. It was a little too late to get something for this one.
Right.
But we decided that, and I've already talked to Fire Marshal Egan. He's going to put a 5 to 10 minute presentation. What the fire marshal position that started in January that you guys approved last year is done for the community, and he'll have a 5 to 10 minute presentation for the August PSC meeting.
Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. I think there are so many opportunities to tell these success stories to the community, to show them the great work that's really going on. All right, with that...
On that matter,
Yes,
are
sir.
they going to alternate meetings, or are they going to both do presentations, or how do you like to have that later?
I'm open to both.
Okay.
I mean, if Chief Skiba says I have an interesting one here, and Chief Finn says, well, I've got one too, and they're both going to do 5-6 minutes, I mean, if we had 10,
got the
11
time.
minutes, we
Yeah.
have the time. We can add 10, 15 minutes to the meeting. You know, we need to get these past 5 for Commissioner Kirschling.
That's right.
All right, we'll play that one a little bit by ear.
Yeah.
You know, and if it gets into where Chief Skiba has one that says, well, maybe this one needs to go 15, 20 minutes for whatever reason, well, then we won't do one in EMS or fire. We'll just take it a month at a time. But it's an excellent opportunity to be in front of at least the camera and tell the people of Stevens Point, look at this tremendous service. And I think a fire marshal is a great way to start. All right, with that said, I'm going to move. Actually, I have one more question. Maybe we can do this in the chief's reports. Have the budgetary instructions for 2020 been issued by the comptroller?
Not at this time, no.
Mary, do you know when they're coming? Alderperson Kneebone?
Haven't heard anything yet.
All right, have any instructions for the capital budgets?
I'm sorry, the last couple of years at least, we have been noticed in July, so I'm presuming that after the
You think it's coming
holidays,
pretty quick here?
that for capital, we'll be starting to discuss it, yes.
All right, when you and Chief Finn received the budgetary direction, either from the mayor's office, comptroller, or, I assume that's where it still comes from, would you be kind enough to share that with the commission?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. With that, let's move to item 3, the approval of the minutes. Members of the Police and Fire Commission, you have the minutes for the month of June, June 4th in your packet. What are your wishes?
I move to approve the,
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted to the Police and Fire Commission for Tuesday, June 4th. Are there any editorial modifications or changes that are required or necessary? If not, the motion to approve, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Our next item is the confirmation of the bills. You have in your packet, members of the Police and Fire Commission, the bills as submitted to us from the police, fire, and EMS. Commissioner Ostrowski, you are the primary reviewer of the bills as they are initially submitted to the city. I turn the floor to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. First one I grab is the ambulance bills, and you'll see they're for $1,800. Nothing stands out, nothing big jumps out on them. I do point out, if you look to the budgetary, what you're gonna see from now on, what we worked out is, so that we know where the budget's running, because bills are now paid actually right up to almost meeting day.
Right.
The budget will be a month behind, so what you'll need to do is just take the ones we're approving for today, add them to the next, the last month, and you'll be up to date. And if you look at that for the ambulance thing, you'll see only one item jumps out at 148% of the budget already, but that's software, and I'm not surprised at that. Overall, their budget is running well within line. When you take the fire department next, and this one again, nothing big jumps out, nothing unusual. And if you do the same thing, add it to the May budget to the date, you will see that they're running at, I figured out that they're running at about 58% of their budget, so they are in no big danger there also.
All right.
When you take the police department budget, I'd just like to point out a couple big expenses. When you go near the top, you'll see a couple for upgrades for cameras downtown, and that speaks to $8,700. Then you got a, down near the bottom, you got a repair of roof leak and another leak or repair, which add up to about $2,900. If you take those two things, that represents about 52% of the budget for this month. So, and if you look at their overall budget, adding, they're running around 54%, which for the first 6 months is well in line. There are a couple items, and I think this goes to what you were just addressing. You were talking about the budgetary. I think we need to define our budgets a little better as far as allocating money here or there, because some items we consistently go over, some items we consistently have money left. I think some items need to be looked at what their real budget needs to be. Not to run, you know, the overall budget comes in, but I think I'd like to see individual items come in closer to what we projected.
Do you have an example or two you can share with the commission? Or I hadn't warned you I was going to do that to you, but
What's that?
do you have an example or two of an area you'd like to see greater definition in the future?
Well, a lot of it happens on the IT service. I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we
Right.
need to increase those areas and maybe decrease something else. I appreciate the fact that the overall budget comes in on target, but being an old budgetary person myself from corporate days, I like to see individual categories coming closer to target.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Chief Skiba, how many cameras are in the downtown area now? I'm just curious.
So originally, so there are 3 sites on Main Street, one at the Square on Main, one at Third at Main, and one at Strong's in Main.
Okay.
Those 3 originally were prepped for 4 cameras each, but originally only received 1 PTZ, which is pan-tailed zoom. realizing the holes within having just a pattern camera system, and the events have been occurring more frequently, we wound up purchasing what's considered a stationary 360. So it's one pod, but with 4 cameras within it, and those are placed on each of the poles. That was the expense. And then the increase of cameras, we had to adjust the boxes. That's where some of the costing came in. But now we have the capability of taking the PTZ and focusing on a problem area, zooming in, and allowing the rest to have full coverage. So kind of just filling in the holes that we've known that we've had down there.
Are you aware of any plan to add any additional cameras in any other areas of the community?
Not at this time. From the infrastructure perspective, as we continue to develop fiber, it's going to provide us greater capabilities if we wish to. Unfortunately, on the operating side of a storage perspective, there's kind of that bang for your buck. It starts to create an issue as to how long you're going to keep those things. Speaking to the budget just briefly, and I have not had a chance to speak with Commissioner Ostrowski, but myself and the 2 assistant chiefs have been looking at some of our account lines and actually breaking them apart more for coming into next year and having, I think Leanne could speak to just the amount of account lines we used to have. The prior treasurer consolidated several. We're breaking them apart again and to be able to better define for the commission just where the money is being spent.
Good, thank you. Are there other questions on the budgets?
Same
Bob?
thing on those cameras. Chief, is one of those the new ones? Is that the one by what I'd call the old Westenberger, right on the corner there by the bus drop-off? Is that one of the new ones?
Yes.
I was just a little concerned. That thing seems awfully low.
They are
I'm thinking
from a
vandalism.
consideration of, could they be
Facial.
vandalized? Yes, but I will tell you, the one that was taller on Main Street got hit by a tractor trailer, so, but with that said, the higher you go, the less visual
Facial.
profile you're getting, and all you're finding out is, are they bald? Are they brunette? Are they, and so, clearly, are they gray? So.
Comes the ball jokes.
Now, I actually was thinking, the last image you would see on a vandalized camera would be the person who vandalized the camera, right? I think that'd be pretty easy. Bob, just because I'm curious, tell us a little bit more about ladder testing. I think it's obvious, but how often do we do that, and what do they have to do to pass that
Ladders get
test?
our ground ladders get certified every year,
Okay.
and then the mains and the trucks and the tower get serviced every 5 years.
All right.
They have to meet, they come out, there's different tests, stress tests, weight tests, and everything else on them, and then they have to be certified for us to use them.
Good, thank you. Are there other questions on the bills that have been submitted? If not, I will move approval
I would
of
second that.
the bills as submitted to the Police and Fire Commission, seconded by Commissioner Ostrowski. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6, the approval of Dalton Kobach to regular police officer status. Members of the Police and Fire Commission, you have in your packet a letter from the shift lieutenant there. And Chief Skiba, would you add anything to Lieutenant Jeremy's report to us? You have the floor, sir.
I would say this is one of those, again, where, as you've noticed more and more, we are presenting people from not only our community, but regionally, finding that from a retention perspective. In this particular case, Officer Kobach is originally from the Stevens Point area, has ties to this community, and so right from the get-go, they just have that natural investment, wanting to make this is their hometown. They don't have to learn that it becomes their hometown, I should say. And so we're very fortunate that we have a local boy who is taking care of his community, wants to raise a family here, and doing very well in starting out as a young officer.
Are there any questions for our police chief?
I move approval.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Carlson, second by Commissioner Moore to approve, recommending the officer for permanent officer status. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6 this afternoon is the fire chief's report and the report from EMS. Chief Finn, you have the floor.
Due to July 2nd being that you guys were everyone just handed out the EMS report, Assistant Chief Moody is on vacation, so we didn't get a fire report, but just to make you aware, Rescue Task Force training was held with local law enforcement and fire and EMS for active shooter training. And the main focuses this year was early establishment of incident command and patient tracking. Thanks to UWSP, St. Mike's, and Stevens Point Aspirers Hospital worked with us on patient tracking and destination determination of the patients. It was a 4-day event, and it went well. Also, we were involved with Ageless Aviation, which happened to be one of the same days as Rescue Task Force, so we were lucky to have enough manpower to do it. But on the Ageless Aviation, I'd like to make note that the Guns and Hoses has a decal on the plane. Because of the money raised through our softball games, police and fire, they were able to donate, I think, over $100,000 or maybe $75,000 to the Ageless Aviation to get that plane here in Stevens Point. And that's the generosity of this community. I think it should be pointed out. Also, I got a couple things that I'd like to know when you talk about earlier, President Westcott, about the individuals in the fire department, the police departments. Firefighter Shane Westfall in January traveled with 9 other people from the community church of Stevens Point to Ecuador on a mission. Almost every day, their main project was to rehab a single grandmother's house. They did other things such as working in a garbage dump and served meals to people and recyclers that were working there. They did after-school programs, and they served Venezuelan and Colombian refugees and helped them sign up for government programs, making them and serving them meals and helping with kids programs. So Shane was over in Ecuador for 8 days. And then firefighter Nicodem, he went on a medical mission trip with the Appleton Alliance Church to Lima, Peru in June. And there the team was able, with the church, help set up and run a volunteer health clinic. It involved 2 family practice doctors, a dentist, a dermatologist, optometrist, physical therapist, pharmacist, and many nurses to help the poor and sick. The clinic was open for 4 days and will continue to be open every Wednesday now of the week if anyone's in need. They gave baskets of clothes and food to some of the poorest families in the area. I just thought you guys should be made aware of this. These are kind of people that are currently working. You know, they just not only care here, but and their off days too, they care. And I just thought you guys should be aware of what's going on with the firefighters and paramedics of Stevens Point Fire Department.
Absolutely. How did they become aware of that need that they could become involved in Central America? Do you know the umbrella organization, or do they belong to a group?
One was the Appleton Alliance Church, and the other was the Community Church of Stevens Point.
Okay, good.
So both were church-related mission.
Well, I commend both of them. Thank you. Please share that with them.
And since we're going on jobs well done, I also have letters here from 2 different people that got permission, and they did job shadow with firefighter paramedic Peter Strusky, and they were there for the day. And they both wrote nice letters saying that how it's a valuable experience and helps them plan for their future. And these were high school kids, so hopefully we can get them involved in Explorer programs and keep them involved in the community. Again, something that the community reached out for, and our guys went above and beyond and made it happen.
Outstanding.
Okay, I'm done.
That's good news.
Any questions? Did Joseph want to add anything for EMS area?
No, I think we're pretty good.
Dr. Closed session, okay. Any questions for the fire chief on his report for the month of July? Bob, just a quick overview, if you would, for us. Riverfront Rendezvous, 3-day event, will either by the time folks see this be underway or will have concluded. What role will the fire paramedics have in supporting safety and safety downtown?
The first day of the event is July 4th. We will be involved in a parade. We will be down there with tent inspections being done to make sure that all the tent rules requirements are met. We will have 2 paramedics on site from 3 to close on each night. During the night of the fireworks, we've already made arrangements with the sheriff's department to get the buoys out so that they're in the river for the fallout area for the fireworks. It's 70 feet per inch of shell, so the largest distance is, it's an 8-inch shell, so it's got to be 560 feet from where they're shooting it. So that will be set up. We've already made arrangements with Rudolph Fire Department to handle fire and EMS on the west side of the city during the fireworks event, because it's going to take us a while to get over there. We will have a truck company and ambulance on the east side of the river during the event, during the fireworks. There's also a vehicle extrication, or a vehicle display that we'll be part of too.
Good, thank you. I'll be asking Chief Skiba the same, so we'll have time to think about it. If there are no questions for our fire chief or assistant chief for EMS, I will move, oh, Robert, go ahead.
Just one question. Chief, who operates the fireworks? Is it
Pardon me?
Years ago, I thought it was the fire department that shut off the fireworks. Is it now?
No, there's a private company that it could have been years ago, but since I've been here, it's been the same pyrotechnic company for the last 6 or 7 years. They're really good to work with. There's a fireworks permit, that process they have to go through for certificates of insurance. They have to have certain ATF requirements and stuff, so it's a pretty stringent requirement to set fireworks off in the city.
Thank you. I'll move approval of the report as submitted.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Kirschling. Thank you, Joseph. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Item 7, Chief Skiba's report. You have in your packet the Chief's report for the month. Chief?
So starting out again with this weekend's events with the 4th of July celebration, we already have started staging some equipment out there. We do have a command post set up there. We'll also have some staff on bike patrol as well. Our auxiliary will be assisting, again, through the events, more eyes and resources that way. And then there will be law enforcement staff on site as well. And, you know, it's one of those great events where you have a lot of people that are gathering. Unfortunately, sometimes if people, and I guess I would say if you are drinking, drink in moderation, obviously, in the warmer temps and whatnot, next to a river. Unfortunately, we've had some unfortunate events during festivities, and everybody needs to participate in. If you see something, get a hold of somebody real quick to help out, and definitely either ourselves or the paramedics on site will take care of it. With that, shifting gears a little bit to the Special Olympics that occurred early in the month of June, ourselves, along with the assistance of the fire department, were able to join in with the opening ceremonies, welcoming all of the athletes into Stevens Point and kicking off their event. So, regarding the report you have in front of you, bouncing around a little bit if you bear with me, Projects First wound up meeting with the contractors today, and we are hopeful that next week they will start doing some of the interior work that our capital had been budgeted for. So we are moving along finally on that process.
How does that work again, Chief? Refresh the commission's memory. The interior work is what again?
So the interior work that money was allocated were for the decontamination showers. There was some additional work that based on money, and if you remember when we were allowed to move here per the council's approval, we had been allocated up to $250,000 to address some immediate needs and whatnot. Because we tackled security first, we held off on spending all of that $250,000, realizing now we have some location issues. There might be an office or two that with some of that money we'll get that addressed, but we are not seeking additional capital dollars above and beyond what the council had allocated for this year and the prior 250.
Okay.
So we will, of course, be making a capital request again for our garage, however. With that said, the thing that I would like to address, and I know, again, the council is supportive of this, and we are continually working with the mayor, council, and the city treasurer regarding funding for our drug officer. But I believe it is important that this commission be aware of the events that are taking place all too frequently within our community. The last one, I think, not with the intent to bring a panic, but an awareness. When we have someone who is impaired from illegal drugs, who is paranoid, who believes somebody is following them, and makes their way into a daycare, that is very concerning. We did have a conversation with that daycare. It was unfortunate that as an adult, and it is a secure daycare, an adult had been entering, and God love the Midwestern politeness, but hey, I'll hold the door for you. The person appeared, shall we say, normal enough in that moment that they were able to get in there. Unfortunately, then the building was secure. The officers arrived and had to wait to get in. And clearly, you can appreciate the tension that the officers must have been feeling at that point. So we all know that there's a need, and I don't want to bang on this drum too hard, but I'm not doing my job if I don't continue to bang on it. So
I say bang on it harder.
I think everyone is aware of it. It's just a matter of making the conscious decision to say we are going to work to address this.
Well, and I certainly would concur with Commissioner Carlson. I think the Police and Fire Commission, for a considerable amount of time, has been very clear to the administration and extremely clear to the Common Council that this is a critical need for this community. And it's time to stop talking about it. It's time to get it done. Now, initially, we had asked for 2. Did we not?
So we are asking for 2 in 2020.
Right.
In 2018, we had asked. In 2017, we asked for 1, and that went through with a grant proposal. In 2019, we asked, and it was approved without without grant requirements. Council did approve it based on funding, and they had been advised by city administration that the funding at that time was not there, so to speak, in the 11th hour, if you will. I have been reassured that they recognize that though they are dealing with and have dealt with wages, that staffing needs with the presentation given to council last year is very important. They recognize the need for it. My hope is as we go into the operational discussions here into August and September, that that will continue to be championed by council, and I believe there are alders there that will and continue to champion it for us.
Refresh my memory, where did we leave the potential? And I admit at the time it wasn't a great percentage or high probability, but there had been some discussion about exploring possibly adding that officer late this year if certain financial stars align. What's the status of that?
So I have had conversations with the treasurer and understanding that to commit to it even in July or potentially August is a bit early in that confirming that there are going to be funds available in 2020. Understanding also that council did approve the forward movement of the fire department's grant request.
Right.
And if that's approved, understandably, though the plan is for 2 officers in 2020, obviously if there's only so much funding and they can get 3 paramedics and 1 officer, clearly that is still a benefit to public protection. And I understand that it's, which evil do you, kind of address and deal with. So understandably, there could potentially late this fall some difficult decisions to make, but with the growth within the city, I believe it is doable, but I am waiting for better numbers coming out of the treasurer's office. But we would be prepared financially. The police department did align not hiring our last hire for a little bit to ensure that we could actually start someone this year if possible. So we actually have somebody up and filling a position, not 4 months into next year.
All right, thank you. Please continue.
Primarily, and as we talked about the rescue task force, a great opportunity to only get better and work with multiple jurisdictions, multiple law enforcement entities, and a better understanding. And quite frankly, even though we train primarily in a building structure, it is a great timely training when it comes to something like a riverfront rendezvous, where you have a large group of individuals massed at one area, and Not that I wish for it, but the fact is, it's great that we are training for it. We're never going to be trained for absolutely every event, but doing this is beneficial and very timely. So, that's, oh, I'm sorry.
You want to talk about roof replacement?
So the roof replacement, we have done a little bit of patchwork, and we have also, we are moving forward with our request for bids on replacing a portion of this roof. The other thing that I would mention, and from the chief's report, it's not agended here, but I can tell you that with the direction of Commissioner Carlson, myself, Chief Finn met with the sheriff this month. I believe we had some good dialogue and clear understanding of expectation, and moving forward on communication, quite frankly, being more direct in when there is a need to communicate, not waiting for a scheduled meeting, but saying, okay, we need to come to the table. And so I'm looking forward to better communication and then better service to our community because of it.
Anything to add to that, Commissioner Carlson?
No, it was a good conversation, open, frank, honest communication, and I think it's going to move forward, you know, and I'm hoping for the best as always, but I felt good about the meeting, and I thank both you guys and Sheriff Lucas and Chief Deputy Benoit.
And hopefully have agreed to periodically keep meeting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, face-to-face meetings, just talking like two adults when something isn't working.
Chief Finn?
July 11th is the next COM board meeting, and on the agenda is the status of the COM board. I believe the sheriff and the county executive Holman will be there to say what the purpose of the COM board is, and after that meeting, I think the COM board will be dissolved. It is mentioned in the contract a little bit, unclear if we have to have one, the contract that the city has with the county when they took over the communications. I don't believe it says we have to have one, but it references it. And that's my understanding of reading the contract.
There's no definition of the COM
Right,
board
but
in
it's-
there, but it'll mention it
mentioned it.
two or three times, but
Right.
it's very vague, so I think the sheriff, will work through that.
I think from the collaborative effort of whether or not they have them, I think what was resolved at that meeting is we are one of the few entities that actually have a contract with the sheriff's office, with Portage County on communication. We don't need to be waiting for that collaborative of everything but what are our issues with that contract to address with the sheriff. So.
Well, good. Congratulations to all of you. Well done. Keep us informed. And if we need some type of a formal agenda item at the future to address any of this, just let me know. Anything else, Chief, as part of your report?
No.
All right. Commissioner Ostrowski, yes, sir.
Chief, recently, I happened to be in St. Michael's when they announced a active shooter drill of some sort. I'll tell you one thing, I never was in that experience before. It's interesting how my thoughts changed. You sit around listening to news, but when you're in the building and somebody announces that, it really changes your perspective on a lot, and I congratulate you guys on that. The other thing I'd like to comment on is we recently I was involved in a fundraiser for your dogs. I want to thank you for the support the police department had over there. But what was really interesting was to watch the community reaction. Those dogs are proving to be more than what I would have even expected. The community was happy to see them. They were disappointed when they got called to duty and during the middle of it. We're happy when they returned. But the support that I found for them was really, really impressive. In fact, I think what we need to do is push the drug officer idea the same way. I think people will buy something that they see a need for. And I think the community, while they saw the need for the dogs, maybe questioned it at first, the support is there. I think the drug officer, if we approach it that same way, the community will respond. I call it the bricks and mortar idea. People target an item. And if they can understand that item, they'll support it no matter what. And I think the drug officer would be the same. So I want to commend your department for the cooperation. But I think you sold quite a bit of dogs and shirts that day.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Well, and you have to admit, the two officers who are working canine in this community, I don't know, I think they're kind of unique personalities that tends to
Oh, yeah.
work with, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with that exactly, but they just seem to be, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, this is a perfect pairing here, right? Right?
They have a way of drawing attention, yes.
He is diplomatic corps on his way. Yes, Commissioner Carlson.
I just want to comment, you touched on one of the biggest problems facing this community and others with drugs, but I want to ask you about the other thing that's facing this community and others, and I see the mental health calls, notably the detentions are still in that double-digit number, whereas a few months back, there were 3 or 4 or whatever, but is there something going on there too, or is it, it seems pretty consistent of late?
Consistently high.
Yeah, higher than it has been.
It is, and I probably could make up a really good answer, but realistically, I think things are coming to a head. So many things like drug use are a coping skill. Coping skills, poor coping skills only last so long, mask the issues only so long, and then you hit that critical mass. And I think we are seeing that as the use of meth is kind of balancing out, but now heroin is coming back. And so as we contend with those things and those poor coping skills, until we really, and let's be real about it, human beings are fallible. We're always going to be wrestling with things. This isn't going to be a utopia, but I do believe there is a certain tipping point, and we're getting closer to it. And if we wish to continue to have a safe community, and I commend our officers, I commend the paramedics. They're out there every day dealing with these people, counseling these people as best they can. And so whether we have more paramedics or we have more officers, quite frankly, if you don't give me the officer, I'd say give them 6 paramedics because you're going to need them. But we need the paramedics too. I know.
And I was just going to say, it's so nice that a couple years ago, we had a mental health officer, the foresight for that, and in addition to looking to add another drug officer, because those are the two driving things that are going on here. So keep rocking.
Let me see if I can kind of summarize what we hear, I think, almost every month at this commission. I think as commissioners, and many of us have been doing this for a while, we read the reports, we see the number of weapons arrests, weapons calls increasing. We hear from law enforcement that there is an escalating drug use, drug abuse problem, the mental health issue that you've just, I think what the commission is hearing, and we're trying to say there are a lot of alarms going off. There are many alarms that we are detecting as a commission to support police, fire, and paramedics, which is why, again, we stress to our aldermanic liaison, these are important signals that our community is sending. We need to start responding to them. Now, we are responding in many ways already, but we need to basically amp up the game here. And that's what we're really going to be advocating for in the months ahead. I think that's kind of a quick summary of when we hear all these reports from police and fire and what we hear. We've got alarms going off all over the place. We're not alarmists,
Right.
but we're realists. Yeah. These numbers are increasing. If you graphed it, they would be going in the wrong direction. Are there other questions for Chief Skiba? Thank you for an excellent report.
Yeah.
And you handled that riverfront really well. I know you seemed very well prepared for that.
Yeah. He's good at that.
He's good. Are there any other questions for our Chief of Police?
We got this.
I'll make a motion to approve. Thank you. Second. Second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries. All right, our next item is we will adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute, deliberating and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and pursuant to Wisconsin statute considering the employment, the promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation information of any public employee of which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Today we will be reviewing a firefighter-paramedic applicant interview. We will hear an update on the EMS contract ambulance negotiations between the city and the county, and we are going to review the ratification of Local 484 AFL-CIO 2020 tentative agreement for a contract. Do I have a motion to adjourn into closed session?
I'll second.
Commissioner Carlson, Commissioner Kirschling. Please call the roll.
Carlson?
Yes.
Kirschling?
Yes.
Moore? Aye. Ostrowski?
Yes.
And Westcott?
Yes. All right, we have returned into open session after our lengthy closed session where we discussed paramedic applicant interview. We had an update on EMS ambulance contract negotiations and reviewed the tentative contract agreement with the firefighters union. At this time, in open session, I am prepared to make a motion that the City of Stevens Point extend an offer of employment as a probationary firefighter-paramedic to Alex Knight. It is the understanding of the commission that Mr. Knight has completed all of the initial hiring protocols, and with the motion from this commission, would begin his employment as a probationary firefighter-paramedic with the City of Stevens Point on Monday. With that said, that is a motion. May I have a second?
I second it.
Second by Commissioner Carlson. All in favor of extending that offer of employment to Alex Knight, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Congratulations, Alex. Welcome to the City of Stevens Point. With that said, based on the information that was provided to the Police and Fire Commission in our executive session, the Commission is satisfied with the tentative agreement that has been submitted to the Police and Fire Commission for review. It is the understanding of the Police and Fire Commission that this will go in front of the city's Personnel Committee and the Common Council for action. Is that anticipated in July, Chief?
Yes, it is, and the Personnel Committee for next Monday night.
All right, it is also part of this motion that upon our review, we forward to the Personnel Committee and to the Common Council our recommendation that the tentative labor agreement for 3 years be ratified by the city's Common Council, and if done, I would also ask the Commission, pending approval of the Common Council, to authorize the President of the Police and Fire Commission to sign and execute that labor contract pending approval from the Stevens Point City Council. That is yes, one motion.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. Let's take a roll call on that because it will require signing a contract. You're voting to basically affirm the action, recommend it be approved by the Common Council, and authorize the President of the Police and Fire Commission to execute the contract pending approval of the city. Please call the roll.
Carlson?
Yes.
Kirschling?
Yes.
Moore?
Aye.
Ostrowski?
Yes.
And Westcott?
Yes. And with that, we are adjourned. Alex, come on up. Congratulate you formally here.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Look forward to a long time career.
Welcome to the community. Good luck house hunting, too.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.